What's up guys, it's Tony from Streetball Strategies, where we use strategy to build your streetball legacy. Today we're continuing our series on how to practice by yourself, and we're taking it step by step. So today we're talking about how to warm up when practicing by yourself. Now for those of you who are younger and may not understand what the term of warming up is, when you first arrive to the court, assuming you haven't been working out, your body physically is kind of at a physical baseline, meaning your heart rate is at a resting heart rate, as well as your breathing, because you haven't been moving, you haven't been active, you haven't been working out. So your heart rate is at a resting rate, and so is your breathing. And at some point in your workout and some point in your practice, you're going to be at your maximum. You're going to be at your heart rate max, you're going to be at your VO2 max, you're going to be breathing hard. Warming up is that transitional period between your resting state and your max state, and how you go about getting there. The reason warming up is so important is because if you were to show up to the court in a rested state at your baseline, and you were to just start sprinting as hard as you possibly could back and forth, and you were trying to do that in order to warm up, you're forcing your body to go from its resting baseline to its max very sharply, very suddenly. And when you're young and you have a fresh body and joints, that may feel easy or natural. But over time, as you put wear and tear on your body, what you'll notice is you'll be forcing your body to go from resting to max so suddenly that you're shocking your system. As you get older, that shocking, that jarring process does take its toll on your system. What you're trying to do is you want to gradually build that intensity over a period of 10, 15, 20 minutes in order to slowly work your body into being warmed up, and so that when you get to that max output, you'll then be able to sustain it for a longer period of time because you slowly worked your way into getting up there. And what we've really started to notice over the last decade is that not only are we trying to elevate our breathing and our heart rate and our blood flow, but the more specific reason as to why is because we are trying to start to produce and have certain hormones circulate throughout our body that allow our bodies to then perform at their maximum performance over a longer period of time. Hormones such as testosterone and epinephrine and non-epinephrine and human growth hormone. Over the last decade, we've found out that when we are warming up, we are starting to produce those hormones, and then over the course of our workouts and our practice, those hormones are what allow our body to perform at its very best. And so instead of spiking our baseline and going straight to our max output, when we're warming up, we are trying to slowly and gradually start producing those hormones, and once we reach our max, then those hormones will be able to be sustained and circulated throughout our body for a longer period of time, thus allowing us to perform at our best for longer. If we sort of just suddenly spike those hormones into circulation, what happens is that you'll reach your max, but you won't be able to sustain it because you shocked your body into such a harsh state so quickly. As you guys know, I don't usually get into a lot of specifics out here when it comes to first you do this, then you do this, then you do that. And one of the reasons for that is because I know that everybody is different and everybody is their own individual, and because of that, my whole idea is that I will give you the general idea of what needs to be done, and then it's on you guys to do your own individual research and to figure out what works best for you, and then implement that into your system and your process. So with that being said, There's two main components to warming up. There's a stretching component, and then there's a cardiovascular component. And so we do the stretching first because you're about to demand a lot of your body. You're about to put a lot of strain on your muscles and your tendons. And so stretching allows us to prepare those muscles and those tendons to be put through such an intense workout. And there's two kinds of stretching. There's static stretching, which is where you assume a certain position for a certain amount of time, say 15, 20, 30 seconds, where you're stretching a certain body part and you're holding it there. And then there's dynamic stretching, where instead of holding the form on that stretch, you achieve the stretch through a motion, but instead of holding it, you move through it and then back out of it. So for instance, if you're doing like a knee pull, where you're pulling your knee, you're grabbing your knee and you're trying to pull it to your chest. A static version of doing that would be to bring it up, try to hold it to your chest and hold it there for 20-30 seconds, and then alternating to the other knee, and then maybe going through that 2 or 3 times. A dynamic version of that would be to just sort of bring your knee up to your chest and put it back down, and then to do the other one and put it back down. But instead of holding your knee into place at the top and trying to pull it into your chest, you sort of lift your knee up as high as you can to get the stretch, but then you're immediately putting it back down once you get your full range of motion. By doing this, you're getting a stretch, but you're also getting blood flow. You're also getting movement, and that's what we're trying to achieve here, is getting your blood flowing throughout your body to get those hormones circulating throughout your body. So I always recommend avoid static stretching and do as much dynamic stretching as possible. That way you're getting a full range of motion of your body parts, and you're getting movement, which is increasing your blood flow and blood circulation to get those hormones circulating throughout your body. So through your own research, whatever dynamic stretching you come up with, try to have a system and a process for what body parts you stretch. I find a very basic way to go about this is to stretch from your feet upward. So you want to find some kind of dynamic stretching that allows you to stretch out your calves, your quads, your hamstrings, your hips, your core, your shoulders, and your arms. Those are the body parts that are going to be under the most pressure once you start getting up to your max, and so you want to have as much stretching and to get them loosened out as much as possible. Also, something that's very important for streetball players is you want to make sure your ankles, your Achilles tendons, your knees, and your hips are very warmed up. They get a good stretch and they have good range of motion, and that they have good blood flow running through them. Those 4 parts are your power plants. They are a chain of power that allows your body to be explosive. If one of those components gets injured or just tweaked, you're affecting your body's ability for stability and explosion very much. Once you've gone through a few rounds of stretching, you should feel much looser. Your body should feel much more fluid. There's a noticeable difference between when you're at your baseline, how your body feels, how it moves, as opposed to when you've been thoroughly stretched. Now you should feel more natural. Moving and flexing your body should feel a lot looser and a lot more natural than it did when you were just at your baseline. The same thing goes for explosive movements. Once you've been stretched out properly, being able to go from standing still to doing something explosive should feel a lot easier, a lot more natural. When you're cold, when you're at your baseline, trying to go from standing still to doing something explosive is probably going to feel jarring. But once you're stretched out well, requiring your body to go from being still to being explosive should feel a lot more natural and a lot more fluid. It's at this point that you want to start the cardio stage of warming up. So this again is something that's going to apply individualistically to different players depending on what you are required to do out here on the court. So different people playing different positions require different movements of their body on the court. And so in a general sense, what you're going to do cardiovascularly is you're going to start moving around, mimicking the kind of movements that you would be doing in a game. So think about what kind of movements your game, your position requires you to perform, and then start to practice and mimic what you're going to be doing out here on the court. You want to start out slow and deliberate, and then work your way up in intensity and speed. So whether it's running or jumping or pivoting or coming off screens or rebounding, whatever movements that you're used to doing in a game, start to mimic them in your cardio stage of warming up. Also, it's always a good idea to not have a basketball at first. Remember, this is a gradual process of building intensity over time. So whatever would require you to have a basketball in your hands when you're on the court, when you're first warming up, go ahead and start doing that without a basketball. Once you've gone through a few rounds of warming up cardiovascularly, now you should have a nice sweat going, your heart rate should be elevated moderately, and your breathing should be hard enough so that it's elevated from your baseline, but you're still able to breathe well enough in order to have a good conversation. At this point, your body should feel loose. It should feel able to move easily and naturally. Nothing should feel out of place. Nothing should feel like it's hard to perform. There should be no feeling of jarring when you try to move a certain way or another. Everything should feel fluid, everything should feel loose, everything should feel natural. At that point, you should be pretty well warmed up, given that it's been 15, 20 plus minutes. Remember that we're trying to increase that intensity curve gradually. And by doing that over and over again, every time you go out to hit the court, you are building in and teaching your body a protocol in order to efficiently go from its resting phase to its maximum output phase. So I hope that clears up as to why warming up is so important and what it can achieve when you do it properly over and over again. If you guys like the idea of warming up and gradually teaching your body how to reach its fullest potential physically, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel so that you have access to the backlog of all my other Streetball Strategies video that go over the philosophy of Streetball. And go ahead and hit that notification bell so that you're notified of future videos as well. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.
And any chick that I'm with already know you ain't got to like Mace, but Betty blow.